Hi, I'm Dana, and this is Otis if he hangs around. One of the most commonly asked questions I get on YouTube is why didn't my mum like me? And I get why people ask, because I very much had to watch a lot of content from other people that were further along and figuring things out than me to be like able to put the pieces together and be like, oh, I think this went on, I think this played into it, and to be able to just put the full picture together, I needed to be able to have that comparison to other people's experiences and hear other people's thoughts and opinions and how they felt about things. And that's very much how I've put all of my stuff together and processed everything I've processed. So I do get why it's being asked. And there's better ways of asking it, okay? Like, some people have asked in a really polite way, and I very, very much appreciate that. But I do want to start by just saying, commenting on a video of someone talking about their childhood abuse with, why didn't your mum like you, isn't an appropriate thing to comment. It's actually quite rude. Please don't do that to anybody. But we are going to get into it because I feel like I could ramble excessively and end up with this being really long, because a lot of it is stuff of my mother's childhood that I haven't discussed because I haven't wanted to, quite frankly. It still feels very personal to her, and like, it's not necessarily my story to tell. But there's also a huge amount of it that plays into how she treated me, and that I think will be like useful and helpful to other people. And quite frankly, she was my mother and she's dead, so I can sort of say what I want. And with that in mind, I still, for all the issues that I had with her, she is still my mother, and I still have some level of respect and empathy for her. So I'm not gonna like go into depth on deep, dark family issues, but my mum was born in the early 60s and she was the oldest of, I think, 6 children. I'm not entirely sure. My nan was not there for the majority of it. If she wasn't drunk, she just wasn't there from what I've heard. And beyond that, she also, and that's one of the big things, is that she very much bullied my mother for her weight. And that's obviously something that was very much continued in the cycle towards me. So for the majority of my mum's youth, she was parenting her siblings and being bullied by her parent for being fat even though she wasn't. She was then on and off put into care, and because her dad was in the military, went to military boarding schools, which was where she was taught how to cook and clean and be a perfect little housewife so that she could teach her daughter to do the same one day. The schools that she went to also usually all girls' schools, so I think that growing up with predominantly sisters or siblings, that's a big one too, is that she thought the sun shone out of my uncle's arse. And I'll give that, I liked my uncle a lot more than I liked the majority of the rest of my family. He still had some very unsavoury views, but he was a lot nicer than most of them on a personal level. And I do honestly think that some level of that's probably because he was protected and looked after and seen as the golden child when he was a kid, and good for him. So it's one of those where my mother very much grew up surrounded by other females, other women that she didn't like, and she had her dad and her brother as the only men in her life at all, and she did like them. And I very much do think that that plays into things, because it was something I heard as a kid all the time. She'd be like, oh, I hate raising girls, I had to raise girls when I was a child and now I'm stuck with a girl again, girls are so difficult, girls are so bitchy, girls are the worst. It was something like I heard about it all the fucking time growing up, about how girls are just the worst. And I do definitely think that it stems from like the majority of her childhood experiences. Like, there was no option for it to be anybody but girls that she was having issues with. Like, she was only around other women. I think that's one of the big ways that me and my mum varied, because I was very much bullied by boys. Like, most of my issues growing up was with boys. Like, I would have the like shitty emotional arguments with girls, but it was the boys that were like punching me and kicking me and jumping on my back and like physically hurting me. So I very much was like, I hate men, I hate boys, I hate a lot of them. Women are alright, girls are fine. I don't love them, they still like scare me a bit, but like, that was my experience and how it bled into like how I see things. So I do very much think that bled into it for my mum. So moving ahead a bit, she had that experience when she was like very young, had to raise her siblings, went to all female like boarding schools, was in care and things like that. Obviously a very, very fucking difficult childhood. I have massive empathy and sympathy, and like, my mum no one should have had to experience a childhood like my mother did. And I absolutely see why that affected her in adulthood and created cycles that she couldn't break and things like that. But I also think she should have done fucking better, because it was shit to be me as a child. So moving on through the timeline a little bit, I am actually managing to keep this quite chronological. So my mum grows up, she had a boy and a girl that both passed away of cot death. I think it'd be called SIDS now. Very much not her fault, very much unavoidable, very fucking horrible. Nothing but empathy for that. But it did mean that because one of them had passed on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, I'm not quite sure which one, which I feel kind of bad about, which I probably shouldn't, but it was the girl would have been called Kelly if she had like grown up. And so on New Year's, we did not celebrate New Year's. We might have like a little drink on like exactly at midnight, but we weren't like doing a New Year's thing because my mum's baby had died on that day. Like fair enough, like I'm definitely not shitting on her for that. But growing up, I would semi-regularly hear the like, God, your sister wouldn't have been like this, Kerry wouldn't have been like this. And it was not often, it was very, very rare. It was like, I think it was usually around like the more emotional times for my mum, like around when she was born and when she passed. But it was absolutely something that I heard and something that made me think like, God, even this dead baby is preferred by my mother. Like, literally this dead baby that didn't get to have any personality. And like, again, incredibly fucking sad, horrible to go through, nothing but empathy. But even this dead fucking baby is preferable to me. Like, that's a more loved member of this family than I am. Was very much the vibe that I got several times as a child. And then she had my brothers who were survived and lived, and while they were still young before I was born, because they're 8 and 9 years older than me, my cousin had gone to live with them for a little while because there was something or another happening with her family, not my business and definitely not yours. But I heard about this cousin fucking constantly, and I had to work so hard to not build up like resentment towards her. Like, I do genuinely like this cousin. She was always really nice to me, and it's one of those things where like that almost made it worse, you know, because she'd lived with them when she was little and they'd all enjoyed it. My brothers had liked having her there, my mum enjoyed parenting her, she was a good kid, she was perfect, she was so pretty, she was so this, she was so that, she was just the perfect fucking daughter that my mum had always wanted. And then her actual mother took her back, and then a little bit later I came along and I wasn't pretty like her, I wasn't the perfect little child like her. And like I said, I get it. I don't, because I wouldn't fucking compare my own child to her and be like, God, why can't you be like her? But I also, you know, like, I have been around my cousin. She is lovely. She is very pretty. She is really nice. She is really clever. She is really talented. Like, I get what they say. Like, it's not like they're lying about her. It's just, why do I have to be compared to her? Why can't I just be my own version of what I am, you know? But it was very much this idea of like, we tried having a girl in the house, and it was really, really nice because she was really, really nice. So why are you like this? Was very much the vibe that I got, and it wasn't very enjoyable. And I really fucking hated it when she came over when I was a kid, because the family would be so fucking excited. My dad, like, everyone adored her, and like I say, I get why. But it fucking sucks to be like 9 years old, 8 years old, and have everyone be really fucking excited that your cousin that you see like once every 3 years or something, because your family is not close, is finally coming to see them, and they're so excited. And it's like, can we swap? Like, can you just swap me with her? Because I, like, wherever the fuck she is, however hard a time she's having, at least the people don't seem to like hate me, you know? Oh, I've just straight up put my fingers in my tea. So it was one of those things where, at the time, I very much got the message of like, they wouldn't hate having a daughter, it's just that they don't like me. You know, it's not that there's a girl in the family, it's that I'm the girl in the family, which I don't think is necessarily true. And it kind of is just that my cousin was that fucking great. Good for her. But obviously that also brings us to the fact that my brothers were 8 and 9 years older than me. And that's where I have some confusion, because as a child I was told that they tried, both my parents tried very hard to phrase it nicely, but I was basically told I was a mistake. Like, my mum found out she was pregnant and they were like, oh fuck, we've already given away all the baby stuff, we're not prepared to have another child, we didn't particularly want another child, but you're pregnant and we both don't believe in abortion, so this is going ahead now. And then when I got a bit older and my dad had died, suddenly the story was that my dad really, really wanted a child with my mum because he didn't have any kids, which is fucking debatable, because he had had a wife before my mum and was like, oh yeah, their kids weren't mine. But then we have a photo album where like, it seems like these kids are yours, and you were very like, oh, they never went to Denmark with me or met the family or anything. And it's like, so how come I have pictures of your kids with my aunt? How come she lied for you and said they never? What's going on here? but he's dead, so I'm never gonna fucking find out about that now. But my mum insisted that like my dad was like, I want to have a baby, and she was like, oh, go on then, let's do it. And it's one of those things where like from my experience and from my family, I would advise people against having a child with that big of an age gap. It wasn't pleasant. It meant that when I was having fights and arguments with my siblings, they were significantly bigger than me, they were much older than me. I could not win in fucking anything ever, you know? And it also meant that by the age of like 6 or 7, I felt like everyone was fucking sick of me. It felt like the family was like over as well, you know? Like my brothers were moving out, my brothers were getting girlfriends and going off to college and doing whatever, they were fucking off. So very quickly, I was suddenly the only child in the house, and I think my parents were very much like, retirement, oh shit, what's this? And I was just still sat there like, I'm 11. Like, you can't quite stop parenting yet. I am 12 years old. Please don't go. But we'd moved to Denmark when I was 11. And, like, I was just suddenly on my fucking own all the fucking time. I went from having siblings around, I went from my parents being around, I went from, like, knowing people in the local area because I'd been raised there, to just not knowing anybody whatsoever. So I massively, massively clung to my mum. And I think that really fucking annoyed her. I think moving to a different country probably brought up some trauma for her because she was in a military family. So I know that as a child she had lived in Hong Kong and Germany at various points. So I don't know if that brought up something or another for her from those times. But that was where I started to like really be like, oh, my mum does not give a shit about me. And the other big thing within this is that my oldest brother was diagnosed autistic in childhood because he was such a difficult child. He was like, one of the stories that was told quite repeat, I'll give you a couple. At some point he'd gotten a metal coat hanger and my brothers had had bunk beds when they were little, and he'd dug a hole straight through into the loft with a metal coat hanger from the top bunk. And when my parents were like, why have you done that? He was like, I liked the way it felt. There was another time that he'd gone down a slide on a Tonka truck and just completely flattened it and didn't give a shit that like my other brother was crying because he'd broken his toy. We were told things like that all the time about him being very autistic as a child and then finding it disruptive. So after like having previously experienced the loss of children, which is again not something I'm like blaming her for or in any way like, you know, it's fucking horrible, that's going to affect you, fair enough. So after that, she then had this kid that was fucking difficult to cope with, and that she made very fucking clear and told us all was very difficult to cope with. And then I think there's 18 months between my brothers. There's not that much of an age gap between them. And then she gets her perfect son that she always wanted that looks just like her brother, you know? We have this very hard to deal with autistic child that she like doesn't really know what to do with and is struggling with and is like, what the fuck? And then she gets this chunky little baby boy that looks like her brother and just sort of sits there and doesn't make much of a fuss. And isn't he just perfect? Isn't he flawless? Isn't he everything she ever wanted? And then she gets some daughter fucking years later when she thinks she's about to be done with parenting, and this girl's just sat there looking at her being like, mummy, please. Like, as much as all the other stuff, I think, is sort of a reflection on why she behaved the way she did and why the dislike towards me was in like the specific way, and the way that she like the being shitty about my weight, generally like disliking me for being a girl, not liking femininity within me, like not liking to have to like be a girl. Like, she didn't want to play dolls with me, she didn't want to play dress up with me. If it was like, let's get the Hot Wheels out, let's play Lego, that was a go. She was happy to do that. She didn't want to play dolls with me, any sort of like girly thing. She was very like, no, do that on your own. You know, I think it's quite a typical thing, unfortunately, especially like, I find it difficult sometimes to talk to other people my own age about parents that have, because they tend to have parents that are like 10, 15 years younger than my mum was, and my dad was another 11 years older than my mum. And I don't want to be like, they've solved something, they've got something figured out, because obviously like anyone can be shitty, anyone can be this and that. But I feel like a lot of the people I speak to that have parents that are a little bit younger than mine, that are my age, that feels like it didn't make sense, but I hope it did. Yeah, they just don't tend to have such old-fashioned ideals, you know? Like, my mum was very much training me to one day be the person that takes care of the house and does everyone's laundry and cooks everyone's food. Like, that was the point of me, and that was the point of her. And I feel like it must have honestly been really difficult for her to have me coming home from school being like, I've been told I can be a scientist, I've been told I can be a doctor, I can be anything I want to be. And it's like, and she had to go to school and learn to sew and cook, you know? I feel like a lot of it comes down to like the misogyny we experience as women. And I do really wish that I could like feel more of a connection to her in regards to that. But also she hated fucking women and girls so much that like, I don't get it. I like girls, I like women, I think we're cool, you know? And I know there's a fucking term for this because I've watched a video about it like not that long ago. But I think it also very much frustrated her and like definitely drove a level of a wedge between us, because I favoured my dad massively for obvious reasons. And this is something that I've reflected on a lot, because there's the whole thing of like fathers and daughters sort of like ganging up on the mother of the family in a very like unintentionally like internalized misogynistic for the girl and like outright misogynistic for the man way, where it's like we're smarter and better than you because I'm half of him and you're just some woman. And I feel like it happens all the time, you know, like I've definitely seen it, I've definitely experienced it. It definitely didn't, it's not something that like never happened in my house. But looking back on a lot of the like times that arguments arose around it, because I massively favoured my dad and sometimes arguments came up, and it's like, well yeah, when you're screaming at me and shouting at me and telling me I'm useless and telling me to shut up, I probably am going to prefer the man that gives me a hug and tells me it's alright, you know? Because of the way our household worked, if I wanted something that cost money, I was told to go and ask my dad, because he decides what the money things are happening. So when I was like, Mum, I want singing lessons, I want drama lessons, I want to do this, I want to perform, she was like, well, go and ask your dad. So then I got drama lessons, and I got to go and do this music class and things like that. And I'd be practicing for it in my room, like I was told to, with my door closed, and she'd be banging on my door and be like, will you stop making that noise? And it's like, it's literally me singing, babe. So when that's the situation, and then I'm running off because I wanted to sing my song so I can practice for this audition that's coming up, when I run off to my dad's study and tell him what's happened, he gives me a hug and goes, oh, go on, sing it to me, babe. Yeah, I prefer my fucking dad. And I don't think it's like, I don't think it was abusive or misogynistic or whatever else, actually, looking back and reflecting on it a bunch most of the time. There was definitely the odd time, I won't deny, and I think that's life, isn't it? But for the most part, like, yeah, I am going to favour the people that aren't as outright abusing me. But it's the kind of thing where that would happen and then there would be the reactive behaviour of like, well, you don't like me, and it's like, wonder fucking why, hon? So yeah, they're the reasons I think my mum didn't like me. I do feel like I'm forgetting something, but that's the video, that's what I've had to say, that's what we're going with. Like I said at the start, this is very much less about like I'm not trying to put my mum on blast, you know? I'm trying to put out, this is why she had a fucking difficult time not being abusive and horrible to me, and that's not okay, that's not chill in the slightest. But understanding and reflecting on this and having the level of like processing it has definitely made me fucking feel better, you know? Like just feeling like things, like it's not just that I was shit, essentially. It's not just I was the world's worst daughter and she had every right to just fucking dislike me based on my personality. It feels better than that. So that's why we're doing it. As always, I would love if you left anything you're comfortable sharing down in the comments. It's very much through hearing about other people's experiences and other people's thoughts that I've been able to put a lot of my own experience together and feel like I actually have understanding of my past and my life and why things happened in the way that they did. And like, obviously you're never going to understand everything because life is like that. Sometimes even the people that are doing things don't understand why they're doing it. But I'm able to gain enough of an understanding to not be like, oh, I'm just the world's shittest person I have been since the moment I was born, you know? So that's where we're rounding off. I would love comments, like and subscribe if you want to. I post videos like this on Thursdays, and I post videos about autism on Tuesdays, and I mostly post body doubling videos on Sundays. I do have like a little bit of a routine and schedule going with that. I'm trying to, okay? So you can also find me over on Instagram or Patreon. You can also find me over on TikTok or Instagram, and if you really like me, you can find me over on Patreon or Ko-fi, and Patreon is also the easiest way to find the link to the Discord if you would like to join us there. We last night started Last Tango in Halifax, so tonight's episode 3 and 4, so you could realistically watch 1 and 2 like right now and then join us for the rest of it. If you wanted to. Last Tango in Halifax is really good. I'm going now. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you have a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.